We will call to order the regular meeting of the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Marisol Hernandez. I'm the chairwoman. Seated to my right is Commissioner William Cressy, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. At this time, are there any changes to the agenda? If not, we will proceed with the approval of the minutes for May 23rd, 2017. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the minutes of May 23rd, 2017 are approved. Next is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just to let the board members, I know everybody has heard that automatic voter registration will be law soon. The governor has made comment that he is going to be signing that. And after talking to several other people, it will be signed soon, hopefully. So that's good news for this agency. It should save us quite a bit of money and effort in hunting down people that have not registered. So I'm very excited about that. The other items that we have is office is working diligently to clean up all these past records from the last presidential election. Since we had a very high turnout, we had some records that have not totally been attached that we're working on right now. So I just let the board members be aware of that. Other items are that I'm talking with the folks from Walgreens. As you know, at 15 West Washington, we used it. It worked very well. We're talking to the folks at Walgreens to see if we could use it also for judges training. So it'll be, I'm hoping that we can use it for the next 2 years. So I'm working with Walgreens on that now.
Really? They would make that commitment. Huh?
Well, they have not had anybody bite on that space. And I would like to use it in the city. I've been talking to folks at the city, and they were, some of them were interested in that space also. So we may be able to hopefully work something out. It would be a big help for us.
That would be really good. At least
It would.
we know we have something good in the next 2 years.
Considering we're paying, we pay $30,000 in just ready space for doing judges training. If we could have that location right down here, it would make it a lot easier for us. So we'll work something out, but as soon, I should hopefully find something out in the next week or two.
Okay.
Another item is that the National Disability Rights Network is honoring the Chicago Board on this Thursday about our settlement agreement with the Justice Department. I'm very proud that an organization of this magnitude would be honoring this agency, so I just want to let the board members be aware of that. And that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bateman isn't here today, so we'll proceed with our Communications Director, Mr. Allen. Good morning, Mr. Allen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last week, on behalf of Mr. Goff, Mr. Scanlon and I presented to Equipment Equality's board members about the accessibility project, and it was very well received. They had a few questions about messaging, their concern being that any movement in polling places might be misconstrued as because of a group or organization, as opposed to make sure that we have all of our polling places accessible to all voters. We had our bid opening. It'll come up later. The purchasing agent, Royal Blomsher, and her staff conducted a bid opening for the full city canvas, which will be a mailing to each and every one of our 1.6 million now registered voters on the rolls to clean those up and find any updates wherever possible. The planning is underway with both Audra Lewicki and Community Services and Charles Holliday in voter registration for possible updates to and changes in the hardware and software that we use in the electronic poll books. We're looking at the possibility of something that would simplify the process for the judges of election with printers that print out stickers with all of the voters' information, and then the voter signs in a book, as opposed to having the voter fill out an application. We're not certain that we're gonna go in that direction. It would require us to buy approximately 4,000 printers. I'm not sure of the brand that we might be able to use that's compatible with the electronic poll books, but we're looking into that. And we've prepared and transmitted various documents for city agencies, including election calendars, information on issues related to polling place accessibility, and information on universal vote centers. There's interest at the budget department in supporting universal vote centers. We're going to have to sit down with them and try to explain that in tandem with polling places, we're not going to save money, but if we were to actually move full force, it would require changes in the law and some significant planning, and it's not something we can probably plan on for 2018. And related to that, we're preparing budget documents, and that's all.
Okay, if there are no questions, we'll proceed with old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration. Is there anything new, Mr. Goff?
No, we hopefully will have our RFP for new voting equipment coming out very short.
Okay. Electronic poll books, I think we're okay there. And voting equipment, we just discussed.
Can I ask a quick question? Relative to electronic poll books and grace period registration, how soon will we have some idea as to the relationship between the automatic voter registration legislation and then how that impacts grace period and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we have, first of all, the bill hasn't been signed yet, although the reports are that the governor intends to sign the bill. So presumably there will not be any veto or mandatory vetoes on the bill. So it will go forward as is. I think in the past I've given the commissioners a quick rundown or synopsis of the bill. I think we're going to be meeting with staff on the 19th
The 19th.
to go into a lot more detail as
Okay.
to all the legislation, including automatic voter registration. But, you know, as far as the poll books are concerned, if there is an uptick in the number of registrations, that will, of course, mean a bigger file to
Okay.
load. Presumably, the poll books, and I have no reason to suspect they don't, but presumably the poll books that we have now have the memory to store larger file of registered voters. You know, the beauty of having election day registration is if there is still a problem with somebody who attempted to apply for a driver's license or a state ID at the Secretary of State's office, and that activity resulted in a application to register to vote, if there is some problem, if for some reason that activity is not processed the way it should under the new legislation, we still have election day registration as a backup, so that those individuals, even if for some reason their application from the Secretary of State's office did not get processed the way it should, they can still register to vote on election day.
Okay.
So,
I presume that there'll be rules, if the legislation is signed, there'll be rules promulgated that kind of govern the process of the automatic registration and its relationship to grace period and election day registration.
well, yes, I mean, the state board is given authority under the legislation, along with the Secretary of State, to jointly promulgate rules
Okay.
to implement the legislation. And, you know, more than once, I've heard representatives from the state board indicate that they are going to vigorously fulfill their duties to adopt rules.
Okay.
And we're meeting with the state board today on other legislation, so we're going to be meeting with the state board on a regular basis.
Okay. Okay.
And that leads us to legislation. Mr. Goff, Mr. Scanlon, is there anything more?
I don't know if there's anything more. As I said, I think we're going to be meeting with staff on the 19th, and prior to that, I will have a little bit more detailed explanation of bills that have been passed by the General Assembly and sent to the governor. So hopefully, before the next board meeting on the 27th, we'll have a full and detailed report available for the commissioners to review. And just one other thing, I think Mr. Goff alluded to it, is that there is a meeting today. One of the topics they're going to be discussing is House Bill 3519, which was billed as the omnibus bill. That was just on the precipice of getting passed, but was pulled back at the last minute. So I think there's going to be continuing discussions, perhaps beginning today and continuing over the summer, as far as an omnibus bill and what may or may not be in an omnibus bill. And I understand from the State Board of Elections that they hope to have something for the legislature to consider in the fall session.
Okay.
Does that bill include the elected school board, or is that a separate bill?
That's a separate bill.
And the
Yeah.
status of that?
The status of it is that, again, that's one of those bills that's on the precipice. It was on, it had passed the Senate, strike that. It passed the House, was in the Senate, was amended by the Senate, went back to the House on a motion to concur, and it is in the House for a motion to concur. Now, it's possible that the House and the General Assembly may act on that during special sessions, because there's been talk about special sessions to consider budget items. Whether or not that occurs, we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know at this point in time. But the direct answer to your question is, yes, that's a separate bill.
Thank you.
And just to refresh my recollection, if that bill as drafted is signed, what time frame are they looking to implement that?
So the first election would be in February of 2023.
Okay.
But prior to that, there are several steps, at least the way the bill is drafted now, there are several steps that would have to be undertaken, not the least of which is that there have to be a commission, a redistricting commission, created just for the purpose of drawing these boundary lines to carve up the city of Chicago into districts. The bill currently has 15 districts in the city of Chicago. And it would be up to the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners to create this independent commission. So that would have to be done well in advance of the 2023 election. But there is still some time for the legislature to address, even if they pass this bill. There are some issues I think they're going to need to address before any implementation can be rolled out.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go on to new business. And under new business, we have an attorney contractor agreement between the Board of Election Commissioners and Jones T. Agnew.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
I'd like to defer that to the next
Okay.
board meeting, please.
That's fine, we'll defer that. So we will now address the award of a contract for the July 2017 full voter canvass. And we have, well, Laurel Hodge, do you want to explain this
Sure.
particular?
Was a competitive bid. It's for the printing and mailing of our 27 full voters, as Jim Allen pointed out. We had a total of 8 bids that were received. 3 were disqualified, 1 was late, and of the 4 that were acceptable, the lowest bidder was J.J. Collins at $44,000. Yes, $175,000.
And this is just for the July, for the purpose of the printing and mailing for the July 2017 full voter canvas, is that correct?
Yes, it is a one-year contract with a one-year optional, should we need to use it, but it is primarily for the July.
And we have used J.J. Collins
Yes, we
many
have.
times
They were the,
before.
yes, they were the previous awarded contract.
Are there any further questions?
Did you have something to say?
It also covers a second mailing. The first one is a non-forwardable, in other words, it's a return service requested mail piece so that it comes back to us for any reason. And then the second mailing goes to those that came back to us as a forwardable piece. So it covers both the initial mailing of $1,600,000 and then the approximately 100 to 170,000 that we may have to do a forwardable piece to.
So for almost 1.75 million pieces, we have a bid under 45,000.
Yes.
And do we expect any bid changes with this? I mean, I'm looking at the different bids, there seems to be a significant gap between the lowest bid and the highest bid. So do we expect any, we know it's going to be a firm number?
That is a firm number, yes.
If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve the contract with J.J. Collins for a one-year period, which would be renewable at our option for a second year, for the price of $44,975. And as I said, this is for the 2017 full voter canvas.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the contract is approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda is what I would call the ratification of the agreement between the Board of Elections and the Court for Equality. Previously, we had given our executive director and counsel the authorization to negotiate and approve an agreement, this agreement. And this agreement is for the period of June 13, 2017 through December 31st, 2019, at a cost of $300,000 per year for a total of $900,000 over the life of the contract. And under the agreement, Equip for Equality will provide myriad of services to the board. And Mr. Goff or Mr. Scanlon, can you just summarize the services, some of the services that they for Equality will provide?
Well, I'll go with Mr. Scanlon. This is basically data collection. In order to get a sign-off and approval from the Justice Department is data collection. Something that we found when we were out at the primary election, when we had the 200 volunteers. As you know, we have our no parking signs for disability, for the disabled. Found out that Streets and Sand and other agencies were putting them in areas that made that location inaccessible, meaning that the alternate entrance was on the side of the building, but there was no parking for that alternate entrance. These are the things that are going to be worked out with Equip for Equality. They'll be overseeing all this to make these polling places accessible. They'll also be in charge of training poll workers and our people that we'll be sending out as investigators. Jim, do you have?
Well, just to kind of give this some context, as you know, the board entered into a settlement agreement with the United States Department of Justice as a result of a compliance review the department conducted in March of 2016 and found instances of noncompliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And Since March of 2016, the board has, along with Equip for Equality, had discussions with the Department of Justice in terms of developing a plan going forward so that the board will come into full compliance with the American with Disabilities Act, and that all polling places in the city of Chicago will become compliant with the ADA requirements for polling places by November of 2018. Equip for Equality is the governor-designated, federally funded protection and advocacy system for the state of Illinois under the Help America Vote Act. So they're in a unique position to assist the board with its efforts to have all polling places accessible by November 2018. They have been very instrumental in the past. They've worked with the board even prior to 2016 to assist the board in making sure that polling places are accessible to people with disabilities. And they have continued to serve in a role to the state of Illinois on those issues over the years. So the settlement agreement with the Department of Justice contemplated that the board would be working with a third-party expert to assist the board and the Department of Justice in implementing the terms and conditions of the settlement agreement going forward. And I think as a result of negotiations and discussions with Equip for Equality, we're in a position to present to the board for approval an agreement that recognizes Equip for Equality's role as a third-party expert to both the board and the Department of Justice going for a period over the next 3 years. The settlement agreement is for a period of 5 years. So this covers part of that term, but it's certainly an important part as we move forward. So that perhaps gives some context to the agreement that's before you for consideration and approval.
Are there any further questions?
Just a comment, I think anyone would be hard pressed to find an organization better equipped for what we need here than Equip for Equality. Yeah, they're nationally recognized for their work with like their ADA and HAVA, and I think this will help us immensely.
Okay, if there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve the professional services agreement for the term of June 13, 2017 through December 31st, 2019 for the amount of $900,000?
So
Second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes and the agreement is approved. Next on the agenda is the legal report. Mr. Scanlon?
Unless the commissioners have any questions, I have nothing further to report at this time.
Okay. We have no financial report. We have no public comments. Is there a need for executive session?
No, Madam Chair.
No.
No. Okay. If there isn't, then we will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting set for June 27th at 9 a.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Could we do that at 10 o'clock today?
I believe so.
That work?
What date is that?
27.
Yes.
That is the-
Okay.
Yes, that would be marvelous.
Mhm. Okay, then
Thank
we
you.
will adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on June 27th at 10 a.m.?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.